I want to ask you something, just because I think that there may be women out there that may be wondering this, and I think that I'd love to get your perspective on this. And that is, I think one of the reasons why women kind of get in a hurry to kind of want to get to the finish line or kind of know how this is going to turn out when they start dating someone is that there's this fear of wasting our time, right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to waste our time or our precious life energy on the wrong relationship, on the wrong man. So what would you say about that? Like, how do we like navigate that and, kind of balance that out, if you will?
I love that you asked that. By the way, I am like the most impatient person on the entire planet. And so I get that. I totally relate to that. I want to see how everything in life is going to play out before I invest anything. It's like, I'm
right.
just really that way. I think we all tend to be as women, right? So I totally understand that. There's so much I have to say on that. It's kind of like, well, first of all, if you're choosing a man with your feminine energy, you're going to put yourself in a position where you're not wasting time. Wasting time would be spending all your precious energy and love and attention, just throwing it down this bottomless pit towards a man whose energy is not coming towards you, who's not stepping up, who doesn't know what he wants, who isn't making a decision about you or the relationship, right? If you're choosing from your feminine energy, that stuff is not going to feel good to you at all, right? If a man shows up and he's wishy-washy or hot and cold, that should start to turn you off and make you get bored and lose interest. So this is actually the way to not waste time, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would say it's probably the number one way is to not waste your time when it comes to finding the right guy. And also, what's your philosophy on life here? I would say zooming out and kind of getting a bigger view. If you're just trusting and allowing that things are always working out for you, that if things don't work out with this guy, there is a guy who's a million times better right around the corner, just waiting to show up, right? Then it'll help you just move through these men who aren't the right match a little more easily. And your ability to do that quickly is very closely tied with your ability to attract the right one. I mean, unfortunately, I see women hanging on to these men for years or even decades who it's so clear to me or probably to anyone that they're not going to commit to a real relationship, or they're not as into her as she's into him. So this, in my opinion, is the way it is the fastest path of least resistance to attracting what you want. Trusting that he's coming and then acting according to that belief by not tolerating anything that doesn't feel good to you, right? Not just staying in a situation. I mean, we've all been in relationships way longer than we should have if we look back, like we've all been there, right? But hopefully this will kind of tune you into your higher self or your intuition or your heart, however you want to think about this. So you can feel right away, like, is this a good situation for me? Or does something about this not feel good? Do I need to take a step back here? Does that clarify it a little bit?
It really does. It really does. And sometimes I call this when we start like overthinking these things and talking ourselves into like staying in a relationship longer than we should because we've invested a lot, or because of fear, or because we don't trust that the universe is abundant and that there's someone else out there and that sort of thing. I sometimes call that like overriding your intuition. So you're kind of overriding the feeling side of you, the feminine side of you that is giving you that wisdom to make a good choice about the relationship, but you overthink it. And so sometimes you kind of suppress those feelings, and then we kind of get back into the like inner conflict kind of thing. And I call that kind of overriding your feminine intuition.
I love how you put that. I think that's great. I have this concept from one of my programs called Connect with His Heart, about connecting to your true self, or like a pleasure paradigm versus a fear paradigm, or like loss prevention or pain prevention mode, where you're trying to avoid loss or pain in some way. And so you're keeping yourself safe. You think you're keeping yourself safe, but what you're actually doing is blocking what you actually want from showing up and coming towards you. So it's right in line with everything you said. I totally agree. I think that's brilliant.
Thank you so much. So I want to ask you, what do you think, from your experience and from working with women out there, what do you think are some of the reasons why that we haven't maybe discussed, or we want to just go in a little deeper detail on, as to why we sometimes get stuck in this trap of choosing from the masculine? Why
Oh
do we
gosh.
do that?
Yeah, I have so much to say on that topic. I could just talk to you forever. Yeah, so much. First, I mentioned it a little earlier in this video. If your subconscious mind is creating this spark of attraction with the wrong kind of men, it's going to pull you towards what feels familiar. This goes back to, maybe what your parents or caretakers were like in your early childhood, right? What you learned what love is earlier in life might not be in alignment with what you truly desire now, right? I think there's this great quote that I don't know if I'm going to say it correctly, but when we're faced with something that's familiar versus what we say we truly desire, we'll typically choose what feels familiar to us every time, right? And that's our subconscious mind being so committed to homeostasis and survival. It's just always trying to protect us and keep us safe. So let's say a man comes along who fits into that old, sometimes toxic relationship pattern. If you felt like you had to work hard in order to earn love as a child, and a man comes along and makes you feel like you're not quite good enough, something like that. Obviously, there's all different kinds of examples. Your subconscious is going to say, you survived this, you can handle this, right? Since you're alive, you've survived everything that's happened in your past. It's kind of like this is a dance you know how to do, and it will create that attraction with the kind of guy where it's never going to work out. Because your subconscious, it doesn't make decisions based on what's good for you, what's healthy or what's unhealthy or bad for you. Your prefrontal cortex is what makes those kinds of decisions, but your subconscious doesn't do that. Your subconscious just says, this is familiar, you know this is like a choreography you know how to do, and it pulls you in that direction. I've certainly been there. Most women who are kind of drawn to my work have experienced that. So in order to turn that around, it's about changing what feels familiar, both from the inside out and the outside in. That's what my programs and videos are all about. It's probably a topic for a whole nother video. That's probably one of the biggest things. Maybe just to mention one other one, like your beliefs, which I believe are creating your reality. So if you believe that there are no good men out there, or all the good men are taken, or if a man were to truly see who you really are, he would run for the hills, or all men are liars or cheaters or flakes, whatever story you're telling yourself, is being reflected back to you as your life experience. So those are probably the top two things I see that prevent women from kind of breaking out of a certain cycle and moving towards what they want in love, or really in any area of their life.